y'all, this is She Buys It with Whitney Nicely.
Yay! Hello. Welcome to the She Buys It podcast. I am so excited for the conversation today. Y'all, a lady that I have been a fan of since last August, so almost coming up on a year. She's on the show today, and I'm going to completely fangirl here in just a second, and you'll know why when I introduce her and when we get started talking. This woman and her husband are changing lives across the country, and they are doing it by buying land. So there's no overhead, no plumbing, no termites that I can tell. It's amazing what they're doing, and I can't wait for y'all to hear how you can buy land. And also, I want to say that as a Proverbs 31 woman, she goes to inspect a field and she buys it. Y'all, that's land, all right? I started in land. My very first deal was in land, and then I got into houses, apartments, and money and all the other things, but land is where it's at, y'all. Welcome, Michelle, to the She Buys It podcast. She's living in Phoenix right now, but they invest all over the Southeast, and she's got a great story, and I can't wait for y'all to hear about it. Michelle, is there anything else that I missed in a quick little intro that you want people to know?
That's perfect. Land has been the cornerstone of our wealth. Just like you, we've moved on to, a couple of other asset classes, but it continues to be our cash machine.
I love it. So I'm completely obsessed with the first deal. Yes. So tell me, and you might even have to tell me a little bit of history on how you ended up in Arizona and all those things. But tell me about your first land deal, and also tell me what you were doing that you said, you know what, I need to be in real estate.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm originally from Honduras, actually, Whitney. I came here to the U.S. in 1995. My husband's also an immigrant. He's from Germany. We came here, to study and to do what everyone says that you should be doing after you get a degree from a university, is to go get a job. And we were living the American dream, I guess, living paycheck to paycheck, comfortably miserable,
comfortably miserable has to be the best definition of middle-class mediocrity that I've ever heard. Yeah. That's awesome. Okay, keep going. The American dream, though, you're absolutely right.
We just hated it, working 60, 80-hour weeks, but our permanent residency depended on those jobs. And so we couldn't just let them go. So we needed to start looking for something, and whatever that something was going to have to be a side hustle. So it came as a result of a big, just unhappiness, and just like I said, being comfortably miserable with where we're at, and knowing that what we had going on, we couldn't really go visit, his family in Germany, my family in Honduras. We had 2 weeks vacation. And it was just not, it was not our dream, of what we thought we were going to be doing when we came to America. We came with 2 suitcases to our name, a heart full of dreams, and working like we were working for the pay that we were getting, even though it was great pay. I mean, with a degree, and a master's degree, you don't start at the very bottom, but at the end of the day, you have to do, put in your dues and, to work your way up, and so on and so forth. And so we did that because of the permanent residency, and we started looking at real estate. My family back home, has had very good experience with real estate, commercial property. And so I remember telling my husband, let's do something in real estate. The very first thing that came to mind was, let's look at houses. And because I think we were foreigners, we had the immigrant disadvantage and the immigrant advantage. What I want to say is that we had no idea how construction, worked here in the US. We couldn't tell you how to estimate repairs on a foundation, on a kitchen, on a roof, how to get, financing going. It's not that we had bad credit, we just had no credit. And so very quickly we knew that we were over our heads, and we're like, okay, we're not doing that. But then, and here's where the advantage of being an immigrant comes. We came across a concept called tax delinquency, and that in the US, you could lose your property to delinquent taxes. And we came across this tax liens, tax deed, concept. I went actually to Sonoma County to a tax deed auction, which was incredibly competitive. It was like almost being in a shark-infested tank. And what I realized there is that a lot of the properties that were coming for auction were pieces of land, number one. And number two, we thought, well, if everyone is already giving up their property, and those properties are going for way above the tax delinquent amount. These people have made up their mind that they're letting it go probably years ago, because in order, at least in the state of California, for the county to have the power to sell, you need at least 5 years of delinquency. So we started basically figuring out, let's find a way that we can contact these guys way in advance. And what turns out is that, now 80% of the land that we do is not necessarily tax delinquent. It's just people that have land, vacant land, are not as emotionally attached as, people that have a home. You know what I mean?
Hallelujah, too.
Yeah. And so we started perfecting what we call our proven performance letter, you know what I mean? And perfecting a letter of direct marketing, to send out to sellers. And we, to this day, are able to get amazing conversion rates for every 750 to 1,000 pieces of mail that we send. And we get anywhere between 4 and 15%, people to call us back. For every 100 offers, about 2 to 3 deals on average. And the splits are anywhere between the typical split anywhere between $5,000 and $15,000. So for us, there was an asset class that was simple. It was the simplification of real estate. We had very little to no competition. It's a gap in the industry that nobody cares to look, because everyone, whenever we think about real estate, we think about houses, commercial, multifamily, note, mortgage, money. Exactly. Everything else is sexier than land, for sure. But for us, we were able to see the opportunity, see that there was very little competition, that we could do it. I mean, we've been doing now this since 2002. So we've been doing it through any market cycle, through recession. And so it has been the cornerstone of our wealth. And the beauty about it is that we've been able to flip this land, not just for cash, but using seller financing. And meaning we're able to create notes from the land. And, we've been able to build up about $70,000 worth of passive cash flow just from notes on land. So that's not too shabby. And in our first deal, though, because I know you said you're obsessed with the first deal. I remember us, it was a property up here in northern Arizona, because we lived in Arizona, and we're like, well, let's start with our backyard, because we had the idea that we needed to look at every piece of property that was, that we were going to buy. We were like obsessed with looking. Plus, there was no Google Earth. So, but now I haven't seen a piece of land in years. But anyways, going back to this first deal, we had a property where we made an offer for about $400. It was approximately 2 acres up in the White Mountain Lakes area here of Arizona. And we were shocked that, the gentleman, the couple was able to said yes, send us a contract back. And we're like, oh my gosh, let's close on it. We send it to title. We had a piece of land that we knew was assessed at around $8,000 to $9,000. We go out there, we have to market this property. And I'm going to date myself, and people are going to know that I'm really old, but we didn't have like Craigslist and all the, everything that is available right now online in order to market a property. We used to put ads in the newspaper, and that's kind of like the way we were selling land back in the day, and sending people like a little brochure with a little bag full of, of earth and and sand, to try to entice them to buy our piece of land. But anyways, in this case, we had the property under contract, we purchased it, we closed on it, we go up there, and while we're staking the property, putting corner markers on the property, the gentleman next door, which I still remember, it was him and his wife, the Coronas, came up and said, oh my goodness, are you guys the owners of this property? And we said, yes. We've been trying to reach this owner for years, because we've been trying to get a hold of them so we could buy this property. And because we had zero negotiation skills right there on the spot, they offered, we would love to buy it. Would you be willing to sell it for $4,000? And remember, we had paid like, $400. And we're like, absolutely, and I wish I would have negotiated much more, but Jack and I still remember this deal to this day, because what was important about that deal, Whitney, is that it really sculpted our spirit. It really showed us that this is possible. this can be done. And now I just need to figure out a way to scale this and put this on, you know, on steroids. So it really, you know, it's like having faith in the small, even though it was a small deal. How are you going to have your dreams of, you know, whatever grand dreams you have a reality if you're unwilling to have faith in the small? So that was our big win for us. And to this day, I am eternally grateful, you know, to both my seller and the buyer, the Coronas, who invited us for lunch. I remember that day. After we had accepted, you know, their $4,000 offer. And yeah, and then we haven't looked back since.
Michelle, I took so many notes. You have no idea. You just preached like 10 sermons right there, because there was so many golden nuggets. I didn't even want to interrupt you and stop you. And I'm usually pretty bad about that. But that deal is so perfect that it blows my mind on how simple it is, how fast it was. And you're right. You got to take those wins and celebrate them. And, you know, I'll go back through and break it down a little bit here in a second. But you said that you would have, you know, gone back and negotiated. I would really encourage you to just appreciate that seed of faith that you got, because you can over negotiate the fire out of it. But at the end of the day, get a deal done and let's go to closing. Let's go, let's go, let's go. It takes all of them. And I mean, you 10x'd your money.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
In like an hour.
Yeah, there's a little bit more work, you know. That's another of the Immigrant Advantage. It's a zero fear of hard work that has worked really well for us. So it's not necessarily, I'm not saying this is something, you know, a get rich quick. It's, you know, it takes time. It takes hard work like anything else. But if you're willing to focus, put blinders on, because there's so many shiny pennies out there. You know, there's so many ways to skin this cat. And whatever lane you pick, whether it be wholesaling houses, whether it be, you know, note buying, whatever it is, pick a lane where, you know, oh my gosh, it totally aligns with what I'm doing right now, or it totally aligns with my skill set, with my superior, you know, whatever, you know, genius you have. And even if you don't have genius, you know, you can always have mentors that can help you along the way. You know what I mean? And collapse time for you. And that power of focus for us, you know, and putting blinders on and focusing on only 3 types of property, because that's another thing. I think, you know, even within land, there's so many things that you can do. You know, you can start buying land to put mobile homes on, to start, you know, subdividing, aggregating, splitting. I mean, there's so many things. And we're like, no, we're just going to flip dirt with the termites on. Exactly. Quickly. The velocity of money, you know, was so much more important for us. And we specialize on 3 pieces of land. We specialize on infill lots in the city. We specialize on properties on the path of growth, and recreational properties. And what I mean by that, recreational properties, property that is close to like a nice forest, lakes, hunting. You know, like that first piece of land was close to the White Mountain Lake area. So amazing fishing. And it would, you know, even if the Coronas would have not bought it, it would have not been difficult to get, you know, to get rid of it. But what the Coronas taught us was that the very first thing that we should do when marketing a property, especially when it comes to land, is to send neighbor letters. Is to market it with the letters. About 50% of our sales come very quickly through neighbor letters. So I'm in y'all's free Facebook group, and I see people talking about neighbor letters, and I think it's brilliant, because my great grandfather said that he wanted his land and everything that touched it. Yeah.
And so if anything comes up that touches his land, he's going to buy it. My papa felt the same way. My mom feels the same way. And now I feel the same way. And to send the neighbors a letter is so simple and smart and easy and quick and obvious.
Yeah, absolutely. So
nobody is more invested in that neighborhood and interested in it than the neighbors.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So if it's on the path of growth or recreational property, I would highly encourage the neighbors. The same, even if it's an infill lot. But, you know, our end buyer, for example, on the infill lot area is usually builders, you know. On the path of growth is usually much more of an investment-minded person, somebody that is looking to do something with it, you know, in the long term, that is looking for it to appreciate in value, and so on and so forth. And recreational property, well, people that just want to go out there and, you know, maybe drive a couple hours at most, you know, from the city where they're at, and go have some fun with the family for the weekend. So you don't want just crap land out in the middle of nowhere where you're going to need a helicopter, to freaking get to it. You want properties that are, like I said, within 1 hour or a couple hours from where you're at, from the cities that you pick. It doesn't have to be your, the state where you are, but if you want to start in your backyard like we did, that's fair game. We try to stay, like I was telling you at the beginning of the show, we try to stay from the middle of the country south, just because it's easier to market the land year round. That's my only recommendation would be to do that, because it's so easy to even market to people up north that want a piece of land, in the south sunny states of the United States.
So I call that a honey hole, and it's where you go to make the money, honey. And
exactly. I saw your question. Where's your honey hole? I'm like, I love this. I love how you frame it.
It makes sense though, right? Like, where are you going to go? And it doesn't have to be in your backyard. And if you're in, California, there's a good chance that your honey hole will be in Mississippi or Kentucky or somewhere, because, you can't buy anything out there, like, without being crazy about it. But then there's people paying crazy prices. People are closing every day in California. But for me, I like being in the South. I'm a Southern girl, and I just like being here. And so I buy here.
Yeah, makes complete sense.
I also want to give you a round of applause for having that, I don't remember what you called it, but the immigrant attitude, where you are going to work. And I got to tell you that I grew up middle class. We had an above ground pool. We weren't upper class because we didn't have it in the ground, but it was an above ground pool. But I'm very much a princess of the middle class. And what I see a lot are people that don't want to work. They think it's just going to be magic to get into real estate investing. And I guess because my mom comes from a small business family and she was a real estate investor, she knew hard work. And so she taught me hard work. I sold my own Girl Scout cookies. I sold my own coupon books. So when I got into working and then I got into real estate, I knew work, and it's not going to be magic. You're making this stuff sound like magic.
No, it's not magic. It requires a little bit of good, amount of work, but it is definitely a very, very simple model, simplicity. I think that's one thing that both, my husband and I have in common, is that we're simplifiers. We tend to simplify things in order to be able to multiply, and that's part of that focus again. If we focus on one thing, we master it. That repetition creates mastery. And so many of us, the moment something works out, it works so well, we stop doing it.
We go to something new. All right, did that once.
Yeah, exactly.
But doctors don't do that. They don't just do one surgery and be like, cool.
Yeah.
Did it once. No, they do it all day for 40 years.
Yeah, exactly. And what mastery then gives you is the opportunity to really understand your process really well, to at some point start thinking about, investing in software and, in technology that is going to help you leverage your time, that is going to help you improve your process. It gives you an opportunity to also start investing in team. Because at the end of the day, we are all starting a business, in a side hustle, because we're looking for four freedoms. We're looking for freedom of time, money, relationships, and purpose. For us, land has afforded us, all four freedoms. Now we teach land. So, it's part of our purpose now to share something that has been so transformational to us, with others. So, so I think that's the key, it's always think about that you start something for freedom, and there's going to be stages. At the beginning, it's going to be doing the hard work yourself, repetition, mastery. At some point, starting, to do some strategic investments in software, process, team. I wish I would have paid more attention to the who's earlier on in our career, in bringing in team and not just recruiting team. And I don't mean just like a VA. It's okay, having a VA, but somebody that is all in. Like, that's one of my core values of being all in. If I'm all in on someone, that's someone being all in on me, as well. And the return on involvement, or the ROI that we get just from somebody that has, that we bring in and build up to become a leader inside of our organization is, that's the next step, for everyone.
I think that's beautiful. And as real estate investors, we get paid to problem solve.
Yeah.
Sellers literally are dying to find people that can solve their problems. And it might just be a quick $400 close. It might be more than that, but anybody can overcomplicate anything. And as women, I think we have an extra special touch to be able to do that. And anytime that you can just simplify the process, you can boil it down to the basics, and you can put it in a system with a plan, you can really move forward. And then you just rinse and repeat. Do it again. Do it again. Because once you find, you know, you said the who, talking about your team, but I feel like if you can find one seller, and you can find out what their problem is, then all you got to do is help that one seller. Now you will find that seller in different shapes, sizes, colors, and everything.
Circumstances, yeah. And
circumstances, but it's always going to be the same thing.
Yeah, and for the most part, you know, on our side, it's not even motivated sellers, it's non-wanters. So a lot of the problem solving when it comes to who's for us, it's actually when we're dealing with the buyers, you know, the sellers are there like in the hundreds.
Seriously.
But the buyers, those are the guys that you have to, because you're selling a piece of land, you can't just like turn on the lights, stage it, and take good photographs. You know, you really need to understand what their end game is and really dream build with a potential buyer, you know, and even how you create your listing, you want to start, you know, dream building from that moment on, you know, and so on and so forth, because it's not like selling a house, you know. So yeah, so understanding and really problem solving the who on the buyer end is critical for us in the land space, for sure.
Now let's go back. When you were talking about marketing earlier, and we were talking about sending out letters, you said that you get between a 4 to 15% callback and maybe 2 or 3 deals out of 1,000 letters. Did I write that down right?
That is correct.
Okay, I want to talk about the mentality that we have that it's like Burger King and you can have it your way. Because if you're sending out 1,000 letters, some people are going to call back and be really ugly with you. Some people are never going to call back. Some people are going to call back next year.
Yeah.
But
we just got it. Actually, somebody said, do you still want this land? And it was probably somebody that just inherited and got, you know, a hold of the paperwork or of our letter 11 years later.
11 years later. Y'all, can we just stop for a second? Because people think it's going to happen in 11 minutes. Like, boom, I dropped my letters. Why aren't the sellers calling me?
Yeah. And
11 years. Y'all, it's a long game out here. It's literally a marathon.
Yeah. And I have to say that, you know, that's of course an exception, but you're going to be swamped with calls when it comes to land. You know, these are people that have maybe tried to list it with a realtor. The realtor has done a terrible job, not even posted a picture of the freaking dirt on the MLS, has not been able to sell it. People that, you know, have inherited this piece of land, or someone that decided to buy 2 pieces of land, one in Arizona, one in Florida. They decided to retire in Arizona, and now their Florida land is out there and they don't want to continue paying property taxes. Somebody got divorced, somebody needs the money. I mean, there's so many reasons why people, you know, get rid of their properties for 5 to 25 cents on the dollar, but it happens every day. And yeah, go ahead.
And it's not your job to judge why they want to get rid of it. It's your job to help them. People talk to me all the time about, well, I need to make money fast. You need to help some sellers fast, because when you help sellers fast, you will make the money fast. Don't focus on the money, focus on helping the sellers, y'all, and don't judge them. So many people are judgy Jews about me.
Yeah, and when it comes to judging, also don't make decisions for sellers. Like, you know, so many people, even inside of that group, you know, that you're in right now, sometimes will be like, well, somebody, you know, call me and they said that they want X amount of land, you know, money for their land. Still an offer. Every single person that calls you back needs an offer, because we're not in the business of sending out letters. We're in the business of making offers so we can actually get deals done. You know what I mean? So,
whoa, hallelujah. Yes.
People say you send them an offer, you know, and maybe some of them are going to be upset and they're going to send you a nasty letter or a nasty call back, you know, saying you're crazy. A lot of them are going to say, you know what, this is horrible. They're going to be upset. A couple of days are going to pass by and they're going to be like, but you know what? I'm not doing anything with it. So let me just call them up because I don't need this piece of land and I need to get rid of it. So that's what happens.
I teach my girls in First Deal Done Fast, which is all about houses, but it works in land too. We make 3 offers on every property, and I want you to make 3 offers right there. And I don't want you to overanalyze it. I don't want you to dig too deep into it. I just want you to make offers. Just put some offers out there and see what sticks. And some people are going to say, no way, Jose. But I had one lady that made a crazy offer. She was in the grocery store on the phone with the seller. She was in the produce section. So, you know, she's right up close to the front. She starts talking to him. She makes her way around to the meat department, and she makes her offers. And he says, no way, that's never going to happen. And he like hangs up on her, and she thought, oh well. So she makes it all the way through the grocery store, makes it up to the checkout counter. She's talking to the cashier. He calls back. Exactly. He calls back and he's like, you know what? You're right. Let's just do it. Can you come over? And she's like, well, I got milk in the carton. He was like, I'll be there in an hour. Go home, put your milk up, and I'll see you later. Because you have to make those offers. You don't know how quickly they will sometimes come to their senses. Yeah. Sometimes they'll call somebody and somebody will say, well, you know, you could use that money to redo your kitchen, or you could use that money to pay off your credit card, or, you know, we could go to Bahamas on that money.
Yeah, absolutely.
And suddenly their mind changes, or maybe 11 years later, who knows? But you have to make offers.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So don't be judging them. Whatever they say, they raised their hand, they called you. Make an offer.
Make an offer. We're not in the business of sending out letters. We're not a publishing company. We're real estate investors.
Yeah, exactly. And that's another thing you mentioned. You know, so many people also complain. You know, in any whether it's houses or land or whatever. You know, if they're going for an area that is a little bit more high price, that has more competition, it's gonna require follow-up. It's gonna require second, third offers, and so on. So be prepared for it. The moment that you wanna, you know, add zeros to your pieces of land, you're gonna have to come into higher price property where there's gonna be a little bit more competition. And I think still it doesn't compare to houses, you know, the competition, but there will be, and you're gonna have to do it. You know, you're gonna have to do second offers, third offers, and just follow up is so important. And we forget about that, you know?
Yep.
Leave a lot of money on the table by not doing follow up.
A lot of times though, we can just leave the door open to say, you know what, call me back. Yeah. Let me know when something changes, because life's going to happen to all of us and things are going to change. Yeah. So you might as well not just shut it down and say, oh, this person's crazy. Yeah, but they may come to their senses and call you because you were the only one that was nice to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's a relationship, you know, it's like,
oh, gosh, yes.
It's even the letters, you know, some people, you know, sometimes post inside of the group, you know, should I be handwriting the letters? I'm like, do you want to come across as a mom and pop shop, you know, or do you want to come across as an actual professional that actually can close on a deal? You know what I mean? So it's this purposeful perception at every stage of the game, keeping the seller informed, creating a relationship with them, you know. We've never, ever, ever had someone, basically a seller, go behind our back as a result of our marketing efforts. You know what I mean?
Because if you tell the truth,
the relationship that you establish with them. Yeah.
People appreciate knowing what's going on and being kept in the loop, but not being overwhelmed and overburdened. I love the handwritten notes. I think it gives that mom pop vibe, and I'm talking to mom pop people. Yeah. And so I don't want to come across as this big fancy real estate investor who knows more and is going to come through and, you know, steal their house. Yeah. I want to come through as a neighbor.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know,
it's good though, either way.
All strategies, you know, work. You just have to pick one and stick to that and make sure that perception and that purposeful positioning that you're making, you're carrying all the way through. You know what I mean?
All the way through. And if you tell them the truth in the beginning, you build a relationship on the truth, then you don't have to remember what you said to anybody else, because it's just the truth. We just tell the same thing all the time.
Exactly. Absolutely. Totally agree with you there. Now, another thing that I wanted to mention is that, you know, the reason why we started land to begin with was we wanted at some point, you know, to not necessarily replace our job for another job, you know, because if we would have continued just flipping for cash, we would have, you know, the moment that you stop sending out letters, you know, the flips will stop. You know what I mean? And that's another thing that we stumbled into is, you know, I remember having someone say, you know, I don't have the $20,000, but I could give you $2,000 down on a property and continue making payments of $300-400 for the next 5 to 10 years.
And that's how we get into the monthly money and the notes, right?
Exactly. And for
beautiful.
us, we had
Brilliant.
we had paid like $1,200 for that piece of land. So with the $2,000 down, I had all my money back, and everything was just gravy. And maybe for someone right now listening, you know, $300, $400, $500 might not make a big dent, but once you have 200, 300 notes, you know, that's when it starts to add up. And that's when you can really get some serious passive cash flow that will not last forever, that is not forever cash, but at least gives you a good runway, you know, to start, you know, looking into passive cash flow, or what we call forever cash, you know, that cash that comes in forever.
Well, if you look at your bills every month, $300 or $400 could change your life, because that's your manicure, your pedicure, your hair appointment, and your massage.
Maybe a car payment, insurance, you know?
It's definitely your family's Verizon payment. Yeah. It's all sorts of payments. I mean, and it would literally change your life. If you woke up knowing that you didn't have to work on Friday anymore because you had basically a free cell phone.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
It would change your life. And it would also be that win that you need to see, okay, if I did it once, I can do it twice. And then I'm making $600 to $800 a month. And now we're talking about half my mortgage payment.
I know. And that's actually where, you know, we've transitioned now into, you know, pieces of land where, yes, I'm not going to say that if someone makes me a cash offer for a $50,000, you know, $80,000 spread on a piece of land, I'm not going to take it. But I'm going for now retailing and using, you know, seller financing, and now going for $100,000, you know, $150,000, $200,000 spreads as a result of me being the bank now for someone else. So there's nothing wrong with that. I love those all day long, you know. So yeah, that's kind of like now our sweet spot, you know, because it takes. At some point, you'll realize that it takes the same amount of effort for the piece of land where you're doing a $15,000 spread than for the one where you're doing 50. It requires a little bit more creativity. Yes, there's a few things that, you know, will come in terms of sophistication, in terms of talking to sellers, talking to buyers, and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, it's nothing that cannot be learned. We all cook with water at the end of the day. And So it's just a matter of creativity and really being able, you know, like you said, to problem solve for both your seller and your buyer.
And people say, well, you know, how much did you make on this deal? I don't care, y'all. I love money. I love to see it coming into my bank account. I love to see it going back out of my bank account. I love to spend it. I love to have it. I love to save it. I just love money. And one thing my mom told me is that money does grow on trees. You just have to own the trees. Yeah. So, and that's exactly what you're doing. You have just created money to grow on trees and hit your bank account every single month because you're the bank.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, a lot of people also ask me, well, what happened, you know, during the recession? And we saw maybe 10-15% in default in our notes. And I think the reason for that is, compared to everyone else that was losing their shirt, is that, you know, the buyer of land is a much more long-term thinker, much more long-term type of investor, number one. And then creativity comes into play. I remember that whenever I would get someone, you know, that was starting to get behind a couple months, immediately I would send them a letter offering to modify their payment.
Exactly. Plan. Change it up, balance it up, make it a different plan. We'll extend you 2 years if you'll just keep dripping.
So because you're the bank, we were doing exactly what the bank, you know, regular traditional financing institutions were doing. We were modifying loans, and that was the extent of it, about 10 to 15% default. And that land basically had already paid itself over many times, and we just got to sell it again for a little bit less money because now we were, you know, in a recession. But that was basically it. And whenever it came to acquiring new property, we were just, you know, yes, we were selling for less, but therefore we were buying it for less too, you know? So it's something that has been, for us, has been, like I said, our cash machine, recession proof. I don't think we'll ever stop doing it because of that. And now what we do is, you know, eventually back in 2009, you know, here, at least in Phoenix was for sale, and we were in the incredible situation of having a ton of liquidity, you know, contrary to many people that were losing everything. We had a ton of liquidity from the cash profits, you know, and the cash flow. And we started moving that into single family homes for buy and hold. That's kind of like our security plan back then of forever cash, you know, the beginnings of it. And back in 2016, we're like, how can we turbocharge that? How can we continue to allocate the profits that we made in the land into something where instead of looking at one door at a time, I can look at 100 at a time? And that's how we started into multifamily. And we bought our first 94 units, then 96 units, and 147, and another 100 units, and so on and so forth. And we're on our way, and we've grown as investors, but at the cornerstone, it continues to be land. Because there's one thing about land that is not sexy. I hate paying more than I should in taxes. And so land does not give you any depreciation, opportunities and benefits. And that's why we started moving some of our cash profits into forward cash for the passive cash flow, of course, but also because it offers us now the opportunity to use a lot of the depreciation from multifamily and single families against our active income in the land space. So it's kind of like it just beautifully works together,
Well, as you grow, you have to learn new growth strategies.
Yeah.
There's a new level and there's a different devil sometimes. So you have to balance that. But, in the beginning, you mentioned taxes, brought me back to the tax sales. You're going to the tax sales and just scraping up stuff that people literally are giving away. And I love the tax sales. I bought a piece of property at the tax sale. I'll tell you a bad story and I'll tell you a good story.
Okay.
My first piece of property that I bought at the tax sale was 3 acres. And when I was doing my research, even though I didn't know how to research anything back then, I put in the parcel numbers, but I changed a 1 for a 7. So when I looked at the parcel, I thought I was looking at 15 acres overlooking the lake. What I ended up buying at the tax sale was 3 acres under the lake, like literally underwater, no grass, no buildable lot, no sunshine, like never ever does this piece of land hit the sunlight.
Yeah, yeah.
I bought property underwater.
Yeah. And you know
for
what?
$500.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with property in a flood zone, because we've purchased, properties in the past in flood zone, but you definitely don't want to be underwater, like in a marsh or like some swampy. Yeah, that'd be bad.
My great grandfather, sometime in the 40s or 50s, bought some land in Florida at a tax sale, and it's in a marsh. It's where you don't want it, but we've got that land in Florida still in the family.
And that's the thing with the tax, with the auctions, with the tax auctions, and trying to buy land or houses in tax auction. That a lot of the research needs to be done in the beginning, whether you get that property or not, whether you win the bid or not. For us, we do minimal research to make an offer, but our contracts give us an option to get out. So a lot of our research actually happens once I have an accepted contract, not on the 1,000 letters that I send out, but on the few that actually accept my offer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Much more efficient use of your time,
And because I started in tax sales too, that's a lot of free information and free education that every county is just giving out like every month, or my counties around here do it twice a year. The city has a different schedule or whatever. But y'all, I would really encourage you, if you need some free real estate education, go to the tax sales and go to the public hearings that they have on zoning regulations every month. Like there's lots of free local information, but you have to put the work in to find out when it is and to go see what's going on and watch the fights and all sorts of stuff's going on at the tax sale.
Especially to find the land in the path of growth. This is so important and so critical because every city has, a 5, 10, 15, 20-year plan of development of, how they're going to urbanize that county. And so you want to know, if you're, serious about specific area and becoming an expert in that area, those are definitely planning and zoning meetings are things that you definitely want to, attend or look up the plan because it's available. It's public information for every city and county.
It's free online. People will say, well, where did I go find it? Google.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. I don't need to tell you that. Do a little bit of research on your own.
Yeah. The same. We're like, a lot of people ask us, well, where should we start? Well, should we pick the counties? I'm like, Google the 15 to 20 fastest growing cities in the, in the US. And based on that, decide, are you going to do infill, path of growth, or rural? If you're going to do infill, you're going to be in that center square in that county where that city's on. If you're going to be path of growth, you're going to be 1 or 2 counties out, especially if it's recreational. You definitely want to be a couple.
But why would you just give me the answer?
Yeah, I know. Yes.
Just find it. Y'all try something. Where Michelle started is not where she is right now. Where I started, well, I am still right here because let me tell you my land win. I was at a regular auction. The bank was selling foreclosures and it was stuff that they had, a developer had come in, sold all the lots in the subdivision for 30, 40, 60, $140,000. And then people stopped making payments at the bank during the recession, and they didn't adjust. So in December of 2012, the bank had all these properties across East Tennessee, and we were going to a foreclosure auction at an auction house, not at the courthouse steps. Well, I was there, I was working as an auctioneer, and I said, this stuff is going for like $500 to $1,000. Can anybody buy it? And my broker, my auctioneer, was like, yeah, you can buy it if you want to. And I was like, so I started asking another auctioneer, I was like, what is this? What are you buying here? Tell me what's going on. And he was like, just next one, I'll tell you later. And I was like, you can just buy the next one? I haven't done any research. He was like, just buy it. It's like no money. And I was like, okay, fine. So the next one came up, and I just raised my hand. I bid against myself. I was so clueless. But I ended up buying it. $1,000, $1,200 tax tag and title. And I told the auctioneer, like, this is how new I am. I was like, I don't have a checkbook. He was like, we have to go to closing. You don't just give me a check. It's not a car. I don't give you a title right here. We have to go to closing. You can find your check on Monday. And I was like, did I just buy land for $1,200? And they're like, yeah. So I got 1.07 acres in a developed subdivision that had originally sold for $69,000. And I got lot 12. And the first 12 lots came with a deeded boat slip because the subdivision was built on the river and they had their own marina.
Yes.
And so I thought, well, cool, I'll send neighbor letters, even though I didn't know what that was, to all of my neighbors in this failed subdivision and see if anybody wants to give me their property for $1,000. Well, everybody called me back and they were like, yeah, we'll be glad to sell you our property. We paid $30, $40, $50, $80,000 for it. When can you write me a check and close? And I was like, oh, I'm not giving you what you paid for it. I was going to give you like $1,000. And they were like, hang up. So I ended up, I just have that one lot. And that was the first lot I bought. And it was really important because it was a quick win. I still don't do anything with it. I have to pay $300 a year to get it mowed, but it made me a real estate investor. 100 years ago, I couldn't have done that just because I was a single woman and you couldn't go out and buy land. And so it gave me that taste to where the next summer I was on an online auction and I bought a half-acre piece of industrial land inside the city limits, across from the impound lot, from the zoo, like right here, prime location inside the city limits. It's not an infill lot, but it is zoned industrial, which is also important because you can't just park random stuff outside. You can't leave dumpsters just outside. So I didn't even know this, but I was downtown. I was helping my mom flip houses. And so I was downtown talking to the codes inspectors and just flirting with the guys in the main office. And I said, I just bought this property at auction. Check it out. I'm here super proud of myself because I'm a little real estate investor. And he starts playing around on his computer and he said, actually, I think you got more than you paid for. And I was like, you mean I paid more than I should have? And he was like, no. I think you have a really good deal here because in 1992, the city gave that driveway to you and your neighbor. And I was like, what do you mean they gave the driveway away? He was like, well, it used to be a road and there wasn't anything back there. So the city didn't want to keep it up. So they just quit claim deeded the whole thing, drew a line down the middle, gave you some and gave your neighbor some. And I was like, so you're saying that my neighbor is driving on my land and not paying me any rent? He was like, that's exactly what I'm saying. So I left the county office. I went straight to my neighbor, who is a Fortune 500 company. It's waste management. I mean, they're all over the place. And I said, you're driving on my driveway and I want rent. And they were like, no, little real estate girl, that's not how this happens. I don't know what you've been doing, but that's not how this works. And I said, well, get it surveyed and call me back. And then 2 weeks later, the man's secretary calls and says, Miss Nicely, we've recently had our property surveyed on Prosser Road, and it turns out we're driving on your driveway, and we'd like to pay you rent for that. And I was like, how much? She said, well, we think $250 would be fair for the driveway. And I was like, okay. I paid $1,500 for this piece. But this had been going on for like 6 months. I said, well, $250 is good, but will you pay me back rent at least since I've owned it? And she said, you know, how long is that? I said, 6 months. And she said, yeah, we could probably do that. I said, and will you take care of it and maintain it? Because, I mean, if there's a pothole or a tree down, I don't want to come clear it. And she said, yeah, we'll take care of it. And I said, all right, last thing then, will you pay my property taxes? They're like $50 a year. She was like, yeah, no problem. So
sometimes it's a matter of asking, and you don't get what you don't ask for.
as soon as I got a check for that, it was $1,500, which was my whole investment back in my pocket. And then just like you said, it's that monthly money. It's $250, which doesn't change your life. But it was $250 for the driveway. When I started renting the half-acre lot, I got $500 a month, which means every other month I get my full investment back. And that is when it really clicked in my head, buy land.
Yeah, we have even students that have basically allowed billboard companies to put billboards on there, and they've been getting $2,500 a month for I don't know how many years now. So yeah.
And that is some amazing. My mom used to be super excited about Mailbox Money. I like notification money. And that is some serious notification money right there.
Yeah.
And it makes up for my, $500 under the lake purchases.
Yeah. And are you still holding on to that piece of land? Yeah.
Yeah, we just rent it.
Yeah. We
just rent it.
In the beginning, we had to flip every single piece of land that we could get our hands on because we just had no money. But with time, we've been able to now, keep and continue to grow a nice large portfolio of almost 120 pieces of land where we're just land banking, basically sitting on them. And there's an area here in Arizona on the outskirts called Whispering Ranch. Oh my goodness, 5-acre parcels that now they, right close to it, they're building the city of the future, and, Bill Gates is involved and other big players are involved. And that has, more than quadruple, the value of our 5-acre parcels there. I was telling Jack, with just 2 of these, we've taken care of Sophia's, university and college.
And that's what it's about. But, I did those deals in the very beginning. You said it earlier. Your first deal, you had 0 skills. Y'all, I had 0 skills. I didn't know how to research. I didn't know how to negotiate. I didn't know how to ask for more. All I knew to do was, like you said, ask and see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you don't ask, you don't know. And this land could very well pay for my kids' college forever and ever. Amen.
Absolutely. So maybe we can entice you to start flipping some land again.
I'm in. I am so in. I was at the South Atlanta RIA in August when I found out about y'all. And I have been ready and looking at land since then. I just bought a house, 5 acres on the river, with a house though. So I'm going through a different phase of life right now where I'm doing personal investing instead of straight up investing. I mean, to me, because I am an investor, it's all an investment. But I have been looking at land, and I love the simplicity of it because I am the same kind of person where I can make anything complicated.
Yeah.
But sometimes the simple deals are just so fun, and they refresh you and remind you why you're in this to begin with.
And that's another thing, sometimes, but I think this, even in the house space, is the same way, some people ask us, how do you stay motivated? I'm like, you stay motivated by keeping your pipeline full. When there's deals every week happening, believe me, you're not going to need inspiration from the outside. That ka-ching happening every week is going to be enough motivation and inspiration, and it's going to keep you going. You know what I mean?
But also,
hello? Can you hear me? Whitney?
Can you hear me?
Oh, now I can.
Okay, fantastic. I don't know what happened, but I was saying, that cha-ching, that you get set up, even if you do need a down day or a vacation or you get a little burnout, you can have the time. You can afford a nap or a trip to see the parents or whatever.
You get tired, you don't quit. You rest and you start back up again. And and that's what it is.
Yep. That's awesome. All right, Michelle, I know we've talked a lot about what y'all have going on and your Facebook group and all of that. So tell us what all of that is so we can get a hold of you and we can find out more about land, because I know everybody's excited about land like I am now. Tell me about it.
So the Facebook group is Land Profit Generator Real Estate Investing Group. Our program is the Land Profit Generator program. That's our methodology. Like I said, we have proprietary software, that goes along with it. We of course offer coaching, but you need to first get into the ecosystem, see what's going on. The group is for free. We usually offer even sometimes mini labs inside of the group, for free, like once a quarter. And come and check it out and just see what others are doing. If you are already, flipping houses, transitioning into this, because of its simplicity, you know, with the experience that you have going on, you can really make it, you know, really go big very quickly. You know, we have people that have no experience, zero experience in real estate, and are making it work. You know, can you imagine if you already have a little bit of, you know, experience in the house world? And the only thing that I'm going to say is that when it comes to selling, you probably do want to pay a little bit of attention as to what's going on in the group. You don't ever want to get too arrogant that, oh, because I know how to sell a house, you know, you'll know how to flip a piece of land. You know, there's a few things that are a little bit different, you know, when it comes to land. So always stay humble, always be coachable, always be learning. And yeah, so people can go to landprofitgenerator.com. Also, we have a free masterclass that you can basically check out. And I'm at michellebosch.com, Michelle Bosch on Facebook, Michelle Bosch Official on Instagram. Any way you want to reach me. I actually do, you know, respond personally to my direct messages. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I want to remind everybody that you can get started in land and put this stuff on autopilot, even if you don't go to 70 or 100 lots. You could get up to $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, and then that money could very well be the seed that funds what you really want to do. Maybe you really want to be a photographer. Maybe you really want to open a daycare. Maybe you really want to travel the world for 6 months. Yeah. You could do a handful of these deals and get your monthly money right so that you could live your best life. Maybe you do want to leave your job. Maybe you want to early retire, whatever it is. Like, it's so close. You just got to get plugged in, be coachable. I love that. And go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. And don't lose sight of your why, you know, because at the end of the day, yeah, we all love money, and I'm all about hard cash, but even hard cash is a matter of the heart, you know, when it comes to why you're doing it. So, you know, keep that always, you know, keep your eye on the ball when it comes to your why. And like you said, just go for it. Give it a taste, you know, and if you decide it's something that you like, then go all in, or, you know, keep it as an additional strategy, an additional way of making money. There's nothing wrong with learning new ways of making money.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I usually ask, you know, what would you tell people trying to get started? But I think you just nailed it.
Yeah. 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 Once you find that one thing, you know, I would say create some mastery and then start moving on to something else. That's the only thing. Yeah. There is an incredible, ease that comes from being a master of a specific technique or a specific domain. So that for sure.
Thank you. This has been awesome. I am excited. I'm ready to start looking some things up and maybe getting some more neighbor letters out myself, and maybe getting rid of some of these tax sale properties that I haven't even thought about in a while, but now I'm thinking about them. So thank you, Michelle. This was awesome. And I really appreciate having you on the She Buys It podcast. Y'all don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Check us out. Don't forget to stay tuned until next week. And I have a free gift for everybody that's joined us today. Go to getyourfirstdeal.com and let's get started. Let us help you get your first deal done fast.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It was an honor.
Absolutely. Bye, y'all.
Bye.